David Luscombe was a close friend of mine and had been for many years. Back in the very early 90s, David was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Those of us that were around him watched his gradual deterioration due to the disease. It was slow and it was progressive. In 2004, he decided that because of the progression of the disease, that he should retire from the council, which he did. He was able to live independently and did so right until the end. But despite the fact that multiple sclerosis is a recognised disease, it isn't recognised by the NHS when it comes to personal support. And David had to pay for the personal support to live independently. And particularly in the last 6 months, when David required help hoisting out of bed in the morning and hoisting back at night, he had to pay. And I know that that bitterly upset him, because the NHS is free at the point of delivery, but there was no freedom as far as David was concerned. He had to pay. Now, I know that David would want me to make those comments because he felt bitterly about the situation that he was placed in. David was born in Bradford. He was very proud of Bradford, despite the fact that Bradford are in the 4th Division. He was particularly proud of Bradford City. And I can imagine at the weekend he and I would have had some ribald conversations, because my second team is Walsall, and Walsall went up to Bradford and were defeated 3-0 at Valley Parade. And there's always a side story to many of life's happenings, because in 1985, because of his support for Bradford City, David was at Valley Parade when the fire engulfed the stadium. Now, because Bradford essentially became closed down for hours and hours, his family were worried sick that he had been caught up in the conflagration. And it was like the return of the prodigal son when he appeared at home. Great rejoicing. David came to Birmingham in the 70s. He came to manage a company called Duttons for Buttons, and they had an outlet in the retail market. And because I had an office in the wholesale market, I used to pass through and have a chat with David. And his avowed intention was to become a councillor in Birmingham. In 1979, he achieved his ambition, and it was the day of the general election, which saw Margaret Thatcher ride to power. Now, it wasn't all sweetness and light for the Tories, because there was a bit of a cock-up, because they failed to nominate a candidate in the Rutton Park ward. And as a consequence, it was David against Jackson. Now, Alderman Jackson, as he later became, was, within the Labour Party, nobility. Pure nobility. But David defeated the Jacksons. In 1982, there was reorganisation of the City Council, and David was victorious in Ladywood Ward alongside Ken Hardiman and a rather longer-haired gentleman over there, goes by the name of Albert Bull. However, that love arrangement in Ladywood only lasted until 86. And in 1986, two of his helpers said, well, we've been coming over to Rotten Park and Ladywood to help you. Why not come over to Yardley to help us? Because they lived in Yardley. So, the carnival moved to Yardley. And first of all, Bill Doyle was elected, then Neil Eustace, and then Dave Luscombe. They were the three musketeers. Sadly, with the death of David, all the musketeers have gone. But David had a passion. He was the propaganda chief for the Liberal Democrats. He wrote all the focus newsletters, he delivered them, and he printed them. And because of the efforts of David, I was elected in 88, and we won all the seats in Sheldon. We then moved into Acox Green and South Yardley until we held all the seats in the Yardley constituency. That culminated in 2005 when John Hemming was elected as the MP. And that was due to the hard work and the foundations that had been laid by Dave Luscombe. And it's a tribute to Dave Luscombe and his hard work that John Hemming was elected. Neil Eustace took all the credit because he was the agent, but it was Dave Luscombe who laid the foundations and built the walls. Neil Eustace put the roof up. Now, David had three partners. He had Anne, Pat, and Carol. Carol and David married a few years back. Unfortunately, she predeceased him. But it was a bit of a shock to Dave's sister because Carol came with a very, very large family. And David had been used to having a fairly solitary home life. But Carol brought a great family with her. And that great family were a great support to David when Carol died. David and I worked together for the Rathbone Society, helping people with moderate learning difficulties. He was the manager of the Moseley unit, helping people with moderate learning difficulties gain employment. Great accolade to him. David cared about people. And to be elected in Rotten Park, to be elected in Ladywood and in Yardley meant that you cared for people and you took up their problems and issues. And you got a result as well. Lord Mayor, I feel David's loss intensely because we spoke so frequently it was untrue. And I, unfortunately, watched his demise due to MS. It was not nice. And David did deserve far more support than he got. We extend our condolences from my group to his son Ian, to his brother Robin. And I know he's His brother, Robin, gave him a lot of support, and his cousin Peter, and the wider extended family of Carol's family too. So to all friends and family of David, we pass on our condolences.